Okay, so can I please have your full name?
Cindy Mikolajczyk.
Okay. And then can I please have your date of birth and age?
10/6/55.
Okay. And then what is your marital or relationship status?
I'm married.
Okay. All right, let's see what else. So, who referred you to me today?
My primary care doctor.
Okay. Let's see. And then what was kind of the reason behind the referral?
Oh, I just haven't been feeling good about myself and that, and she thought before, we went on look at the drug thing that maybe just talking to somebody would help.
Sure. All right. So, what is your current occupational or school status?
I'm retired.
Retired.
Mm-hmm.
Living the good life?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. And then you mentioned that you have a primary care doctor. Is there anybody else that you usually see or?
No,
Okay.
she's it. Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned a little bit about what brought you in today. You said you haven't been feeling good about yourself. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. I just feel, it's getting older is sometimes hard. Everything changes,
Sure.
and Dad and I just have gained some weight that I'm not happy with. Doesn't make me feel good about myself. Can't fit my clothes, different things like that. And my daughter, I have one daughter, and she's away at college, and
Okay.
so I'm still probably, adjusting to that. Even though it's been a while, I still miss her, and so sometimes I just feel sad that she's not around as much.
For sure. Okay, well, thank you for that. Let's see. So, can you tell me a little bit about, you mentioned that you were married and that you have a daughter. Can you tell me a little bit about your husband and your daughter?
Oh yeah, I've been married it'll be 27 years in May.
Okay.
And my husband's retired too now, and that makes it difficult too because both of us are home together a lot. And my daughter, she's a great student and everything, so I don't have to worry about her. She's got a real good head on her shoulders, and so that part's great because if I had to worry about her behavior or anything, that would be hard. So I don't have to worry about that. So let's see what else. I have a dog.
Okay.
I had a dog for 18 years, and she just passed away recently, so that was really sad.
Yeah.
So my house was too quiet without her, just my husband and I, so we wound up getting another puppy.
Okay.
So that's added a lot of enjoyment, although she's really crazy at times.
Yeah.
But it's added a lot of enjoyment to our house, and my husband's really good with her, so we have a lot of fun with our dog.
Oh, good.
So.
Okay, so just to clarify, you live with your husband who's retired, your daughter is away at school, and you have a little puppy. Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about your parental background? So you had a mother and a father growing up?
Yeah.
Around the house?
Yeah, I had two great parents.
Okay.
My dad worked nights a lot, so I didn't see him a real lot when I was growing up during the week. but we had a good rapport, and
Okay.
I was very, very close to my mom, extremely
Mm.
close to my mom, and it was a good home life. Unfortunately, she passed away
Oh.
just a few days after I turned 21, and that was really hard for me because, excuse me, I was really super close to her, and that was hard. But
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
thank you. When you're a kid, you think your parents are strict and unfair, but then when you grow up, you realize. So I was real happy with how I grew up.
Oh, good.
No
Sounds like a
problems
happy
from that.
house. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what were your parents' education levels?
Well, it was in the Depression, so both of
Okay.
them. My dad had to quit high school,
Mm.
and he had to go to the CC camps, they called it at the time, and where you would work, and then all that money you earned you'd send home for your
Okay.
family.
Mm.
So he had to do that. My mom as well didn't graduate high school
Mm.
just because of the way it was back then
I'm
and
sure.
hardship.
Mm.
And they both came from big families too, so there were a
Oh,
lot of kids to
a
feed.
lot of, yeah, a lot of
hmm
mouths to feed. Okay, so can you tell me about your parents' occupations?
My dad was a machinist. He worked at
Okay.
Argonne National Laboratory, and he was a very qualified machinist. And my mom worked at Walgreens. She worked, well, she had various jobs, but it was
Okay.
both were from blue collar professions they
Okay.
had. My
Um,
dad also, he when I was born, my mom wanted to take a lot of pictures of me and had him buy her a camera, and then that just led him into having an interest in photography, and he wound up
okay.
having his own business.
Oh, okay.
And he just did that on weekends, but he would shoot weddings,
Okay.
photograph weddings, and things like that, predominantly weddings. And then after a while, he gave up his business, but he still did that always part-time throughout
Okay.
my childhood, working for someone else, taking weddings.
Um, can you tell me about your mom's kind of pregnancy with you and your birth? Were there any like problems or risk factors? Did you maybe were you born like early or late or anything that you know?
No, it was hard for her to get pregnant, but then they did a
Okay.
procedure and helped that. But yeah, everything was fine with delivery and that.
Do you know why it was difficult for your mom to get pregnant? Just
I think she had a blocked tube or something like
okay.
that, and they just cleared it out, and she was fine.
Okay.
It was a simple procedure, nothing serious.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then what was your place of birth?
I was born in Chicago. hmm
So you kind of mentioned with your parents that you had a happy home.
hmm
Can you tell me a little bit more about your just sort of childhood environment? It doesn't necessarily have to be just with your parents. It could be with school or friends.
Well, I didn't have any siblings,
No
and which
siblings, only
would have
dad.
been fine, except the neighborhood my parents moved in didn't have any kids in the neighborhood, so that
I
was
see.
hard when I was little. Because when you're little, you don't always go to other kids' homes, or you didn't back then
Mm-hmm.
anyway. And my mom didn't drive at that point anyway. Again, my dad worked nights, so he wasn't around a lot of times. But yeah, so there weren't any kids to play with in the neighborhood. So a lot of times it was kind of lonely. But when I
Yeah.
got to be a teenager and I was a little more mobile,
Mm-hmm.
then I was always out with my friends and
Okay.
things like that. But
It sounds like you had kind of a good group of friends.
yeah, I did. I had a best friend,
Okay.
and for 2 years in grammar school, we were inseparable. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't do anything without each other, and we were really close. And that was a lot of fun. And then when I got to high school, I made new friends, and
Okay.
I had one girlfriend, even in grammar school. And we didn't have middle school then because I went to Chicago Public
Okay.
School. so he went from 8th grade to high school, and she was a good friend, but she was I don't know not a wheeler and dealer, but she used to kind of lead me around by my nose. I kind of did whatever she wanted, and there were some things I didn't like where it was going. She started stealing things when I was with her in stores, and even though I didn't do it, I didn't realize that I'd get in trouble at that point. And but I just knew I wanted to break away from her, and I finally did. And I just felt she just wasn't what I wanted in life.
Yeah.
Even though we were friends for a long time, so it was difficult. And then I found a group of friends in high school that I'm still friends with to this day, that we see each other. So that's fun. Yeah, we see each other like every other month maybe as a group. So we were a close-knit group. So I was very lucky to find them. And they were hesitant at first because of who I hung around with. They didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't think that they would even want to hang with me because they figured I was just like her.
Just by association. Yeah.
And then when they saw that I wasn't, to this day they say they never knew I hung around with her. It's just kind of like a standing joke.
Yeah.
Funny. But, yeah, so I was happy to find good friends when I was younger.
So it sounds like overall throughout, being a child and adolescent, everything was pretty kind of a good life.
Right. Yeah, when I look back, I can't say anything bad about anything.
Let's see. So, can you tell me a little bit about your education? You mentioned that you attended grammar school. Do you remember the name of the grammar school?
Nathan Hale.
Can
It
you
was
spell
in
that for me?
Chicago, Nathan, and then Hale. Chicago.
And then you attended high school?
John F. Kennedy High School in Chicago as well.
And then did you attend any kind of further education?
Well, my dad really pushed for me to go to college, obviously because he didn't and he wanted a better life for me. But I was just so afraid to go away to college. Number one, I was just scared to go away.
Sure.
And secondly, you didn't have the best education in Chicago public schools. And the thought of some of this accounting that I would have had to have just scared me so much. It's not like the college or the grammar schools nowadays.
Yeah.
So I just thought, well, I wanted to be a secretary. And I went to a secretarial school for a while, and I excelled in that. And later, I went to college. I started out I was working full time, and so I had to go to college local, and I had to pay for it myself, so I just went to College of DuPage, which was close by, and I went there 4 years to get my associate's degree while I worked full time. In business.
Okay. So you mentioned that you were in secretarial school. How long were you there?
I was at 6-month course.
6 months. Okay.
I was in Chicago, Mosier, MOSCR.
Okay. So first we have Nathan Hale, then John F. Kennedy, then secretarial school at Moser for 6 months, then kind of balancing full-time work with the College of DuPage, getting your associate's degree in business. Okay. So it sounds like you really kind of excelled at secretarial school. What were, even in high school and in grammar school, what were some of your sort of favorite subjects or just favorite things to learn? And also least favorite?
Math was my least favorite.
Okay.
That's probably why I was afraid
Quick
to go.
answer.
Yeah, that wasn't hard to think about. That's one thing I did love. I loved typing, and they did something back then called shorthand, which I don't even, that's not even around anymore. I feel so old saying that. And, but I loved it, and I excelled in it, and I mean, the teacher would always have me teaching the class when she couldn't, because I just loved it. So that's kind of why I did want to be a secretary. And I'm a very organized person, and when I was a kid, it sounds silly, but I had this really cool desk in our basement, and I would always play with forms and different things filling out. So I could tell I always wanted to work in an office.
Okay.
And when I did, I did better things in an office besides always just being a secretary. And as during my career, I got more responsibility and moving on, but I did like the office environment.
Wow, so it sounds kind of ever since you were little, you just kind of had that predisposition for really liking just sort of, typing, shorthand, being organized, being a secretary.
Yeah, I didn't know it at the time, but like I said, it sounds so
Yeah.
silly, but I would buy all these forms. You could buy them at like the dime store, which they call, like now would be Target.
Uh-huh.
And I would just love to fill forms out and then put them aside and make organized, and so it was just fun to work with business type of things.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
when I look back, I see that now.
Yeah, no, that's kind of cool.
And my dad, he was really supportive. He had, all nice things for me down there. Like even when he bought me an electric typewriter before people had them at home, and a nice stand. It just made everything nice for me, encouraged me with what I liked.
Oh, nice.
So,
yeah.
And a real spiffy desk at home.
Yeah.
It was a long desk with all these drawers and bookshelves and a cabinet. So it was just a lot of fun for me to be down there and learn.
Let's see. So, do you have kind of a legal history with anything? Any arrests or jail time or lawsuits?
No jail time. No, nothing. Okay. Yeah, I was always a good kid.
Okay. So, what is your current living situation like? Where do you live?
I live in Naperville, Illinois, in a single-family home.
Okay.
And we chose it. Well, I always was from Chicago and moved to the various suburbs, and then my husband got transferred at one point to Missouri.
Okay.
And then we decided to come back here because I wanted my daughter to be close to family.
Okay.
Because I knew when he retired, we would want to live back where we grew up. And we moved back to Naperville because the schools are so good, and we wanted to make sure our daughter had a real good education.
Okay.
Better than we did in the Chicago schools.
Yeah.
It was real important to us to make sure she got it.
Okay. And what is your social life like? Who are kind of your friends? What are your hobbies and interests?
I love to knit. That's my hobby. I like to knit a lot. And so I have a group of knitting friends that I meet with like once a week. I can meet with them more if I want, but I usually don't. So I see them, and then I still get together with my girlfriends from high school, that one group I had mentioned. I have still one of those girls from high school, or two of them I'm still real close to.
Okay.
And then I have a friend who I met when I was 19 at a job I worked at. I'm close to her.
Oh, wow. Okay. And this is different than one of your high school friends?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she was from a job I had.
Okay.
And real close to her. And then it's one thing I wish I had more friends close to me, because all my good friends, they're like 25 miles or more. So it's not like you can just do something last minute. You kind of have to plan it, and it's just difficult at times. Sure. But then we have a church group that we meet with my husband and I. It's a couples group, and we meet with them every other Friday. So that's been about 2 years now. So we're comfortable with them. There's not a lot of chemistry that we would all be good friends, but we've done things a few times, just gone out to eat with them and things like that.
Okay.
But I wish I could have more friends here. I just don't know how to really get them.
I see, so kind of a little bit stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, it's harder when you're younger and you have kids. It's real easy to meet people through them, but when you're older, it's harder, and people already have their friends, so a lot of people are looking for new friends, or they have big families that they just stick with, and it's difficult.
So you mentioned knitting. Are there any other hobbies or interests that you really like to do?
Well, there is, but I have huge guilt about it.
I see.
I used to scrapbook for photos.
Okay.
And when I lived in Missouri, I kept up with that a lot for my daughter's albums.
Okay.
But then when we moved here,
Uh-huh.
I went back to work, and it was just too hard to find time to do that, and I got more and more and more and more behind.
Oh, yeah.
And although I'm still very organized with everything chronologically, just it's hard for me to get started again, to get back to that, but I really like it, so I just really need to do that. I think once I get back and find out where I was, where I left off 100 years ago, then I'd be fine getting back at it again.
Yeah.
But I need a good jump start.
So it sounds
But
like that
that's fun.
hobby's kind of on hold.
That's on hold, but it needs to be brought to the front line again.
So you mentioned that you worked as a secretary and that you worked as a preschool teacher. Can you kind of take me through your occupational sort of life?
Sure. I worked in a company called National Can that wound up being merged in that, but I started with that. Well, I started with quite a few companies, but that's the last one I ended up with.
Okay.
I wanted to find a company that had really good benefits and that, and better pay. So after I tried a few different offices, I just knew I could do better with myself. And it was a large company, and there was a lot of room for growth. So I went there, and I wound up being there 19 years. So that was a long time, yeah. And during that time, I was able to get promoted quite often. I worked in various departments, purchasing and sales and legal and industrial relations, different departments. And I always went up and got more responsibility and things like that. So it worked out really well. It was they paid well, and like I said, the benefits were great. So and then I quit when I had my daughter.
Okay.
So then I stayed home for 11 years with her. And then my husband retired really early.
I see.
And a lot earlier before we had planned. But it was just what happened with his company. When we were living in Missouri, everyone there lost their position at that facility because they ended that facility and they just kind of restructured areas and regions. So we would have had to move again to another state.
Oh, I see.
And
anyway. You mean they would have reassigned you to another state, not really one of your choice?
Right. No, none of our choice. And I didn't want to do that because I just didn't want to keep moving my daughter. She was ready for middle school then, and I didn't want to move her in high school and all of that because, again, we knew that we'd want to move back here, and then I didn't want to move her. So anyway, he retired early, and then I went back to work. So then that's when I started going to preschool because I only wanted to work part-time.
Okay. And you went back to work when you guys were in
Illinois. When we moved back a year after we moved to Illinois, then he retired. Well, he retired then, and then we moved back here, and he was going to go back to work, and then he had heart surgery and decided he didn't want to go back to work anymore. So I went back to work then, and I didn't know what to do. Excuse me, because I didn't really want to work in an office anymore. I was tired of that. So when I raised my daughter, I was very active in her life as far as volunteering. Excuse me, and I was active with Girl Scouts and church and school, good grammar school. So I really enjoyed working with kids, so I thought, well, I'll do that. So I found a preschool near our home, only 4 miles away, which was great because I used to travel 36 miles one way. So I didn't want to do the traffic thing anymore.
Sure, nice and close.
So this was nice because I was able to be off the holidays. She was off, and summer and winter break and spring break. So it worked out real well, and I didn't know how long I was going to work there, but I wound up working 9 years.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to try a little sort of test, if you will, where I give you 3 words, and I'm going to ask you to repeat them once I say them. And in a couple minutes, I'll ask you to repeat the words again and see kind of remember them. Is that okay? All right, so rooster, clock, slippers. Can you repeat this?
Rooster, clock, slippers.
So, when you were a child, do you remember having any illnesses or anything like high fevers, meningitis, encephalitis?
I had, I guess I had chickenpox and I remember that, but I remember getting the mumps. I was pretty embarrassed because I was 13,
Oh,
and that was pretty embarrassing. Everyone made fun of me because usually you only get them when you're a kid, and I got them from a kid I babysat for.
oh yeah.
And I missed this big party because I had them, so I was really upset. But anyway, that I used to get high fevers all the time. I used to get the flu a lot and high fevers. And at one point, while I was pretty young, though, I guess I really had when I was smaller because I had my tonsils out when I was 4, but nothing more serious than that.
So you had your tonsils out?
Mm-hmm.
When you were 4, you
4.
said? And then you had, you said you had chicken pox, and did you say you had the measles?
Yeah, I guess I did.
Okay.
I just don't remember any of it. I have no records.
Oh, I see. Okay. Do you remember having any accidents or trauma? Any episodes of unconsciousness?
No.
Okay. And then, do you have any current medical complaints? Anything like chronic pain, diabetes, anemia, anything you can think of?
I just have a hip problem. I don't really know what it is.
Oh, which hip is that?
The right hip.
Right hip?
I've been to doctors with x-rays, and they just see mild arthritis, but
Mild arthritis.
I think it's more than that.
Okay. Anything else you can think of? Anything troubling you? No? Okay. Are you on any current or kind of like medications or drugs?
Yes, I'm on an antidepressant, depressant, Effexor XR. It's just for anxiety, just due to menopause.
Okay.
Just kind of chills me out a little.
Okay.
Small dosage.
Are you on any other medications or even supplements?
Oh, thyroid.
Thyroid? Do you remember the name of that?
Synthroid.
Okay. How do you spell that? Do you know? Or... Okay.
SYNTHROID, something like that.
Sure.
And it's a low dosage as well.
Okay.
But it's an underactive thyroid.
So, have you ever had any history of alcohol, cigarette, caffeine, recreational drug use?
No.
No?
No, I've never smoked, and I don't drink that much or socially.
Do you know how many alcoholic beverages you ever make?
Mostly none.
Mostly none? Okay, sure.
Maybe one a week or something, but yeah.
So, like you said, mostly just a social
right
thing. And then, any drug use?
Nope.
No? Okay. So, I want to ask you about, do you have any interpersonal issues with anybody in your family? You mentioned that it's a little bit difficult to find friends.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit more about them?
Well, as far as family too, you want to know about?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't have
Just
any anybody in our family. Everybody gets along fine. I don't see family that often. Mainly holidays or just different events.
You're talking about extended family?
Extended family, right. My husband's family, his sisters live out of town, so we don't get to see them as much. But yeah, that's my goal now, is just to try and somehow get a little more involved with people. And so my husband and I have all this time now, so you want to be making the most of it. And we just seem to be in a rut. We're doing the same things all the time, and we could be doing more.
Okay, so kind of that stuck feeling. Unsure of sort of where to go next.
Where to go next, right.
Okay. Is there any way you could recall those 3 words that we mentioned earlier?
Rooster clock slippers.
Good. Okay. So, do you ever have any difficulty with concentration?
No, not too much. Sometimes they say with menopause you have like a foggy mind, and sometimes I can't remember a word, or somebody you can't remember things. So that's a pretty legitimate, what's the word I'm thinking of, symptom of menopause. So it's just that, but otherwise I can concentrate on things and
Good.
focus on things, yeah.
Okay. What about memory or language?
No, again, maybe I just don't remember a little something, but I don't have any problem with my memory.
Okay.
Both my husband and my daughter say I remember way too much.
Well, it's better too much than too little, I'm sure.
Right.
So you mentioned that you were on Effexor for anxiety. Can you
Mm-hmm.
kind of tell me a little bit more about what anxiety?
Yeah, it just makes me feel anxious, or I don't even know if that's the right word, but
Heat up a little bit?
heat up, yeah, and things bother me a little bit more. I noticed it a lot when I was doing preschool, because it's a pretty stressful job, and the kids would just be, they would just be acting like kids, and I would just be upset, and I knew that wasn't right. So when I took this, it just makes me not get as upset about little things.
Sure.
So it works out real well, and I've gotten on a lower dosage now, where I don't really need much at all, just a little bit.
So your doctor had decreased the dosage?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Yes, and I tried, because I didn't want to be on it, I just don't like being on medication. So at one point she had suggested that I go on natural hormones. And I did this big testing procedure where you had to emit your saliva in tubes, and then that's how they would, it wasn't a blood test, it was a saliva test. And then they could see your levels of estrogen and progesterone and all that. And so they had me on some compounded medications, compound medications made just for what I need, the dosage. I just wasn't comfortable taking it. I don't know if it's really they're going to find out that something's wrong in the future. It was very costly. Yeah, it was very costly, and insurance didn't pay for it as much because they just don't agree with it, I guess, or maybe just because of the cost factor, probably. But I just still wasn't convinced on that. But I was weaning off of the effects while taking that, and I got anxious all over again, or that feeling where I was just like racing inside. Yeah. So I realized that really wasn't helping me. I was on it for about 6 months. And I was decreasing the effects at that time, and I realized that hormone wasn't really taking care of that racing I felt. So I just stopped it. But then I also found out that as I was lowering the dosage, that I still felt okay on a smaller dosage before I got down real low. So then I realized from that, which was good, I did this, that I didn't need all that high amount of effects.
So you feel a desirable effect from the Effexor, but you don't need such a large dose.
Right. Okay. So now I'm more comfortable taking it on a daily basis because it's so low.
Okay. Let's see. So have you ever had any feelings of depression, or is it just the anxiety?
Just anxiety. Yeah. Although that I would cry very easily. Just anything would make me cry, and I didn't even know why. But I didn't feel depressed. Okay. I don't know what that was all about, but that stopped as soon as I was on the Effexor. Okay.
And how is your sleep? Do you sleep okay?
I sleep great. Yeah.
Have insomnia, or do you sleep too much?
Well, sometimes I have a problem falling asleep. But once I fall asleep, I don't hardly ever wake up. And I'm a very hard person to wake up. I'd stay foggy for a long time. And I don't always get enough sleep, but that's my fault because I like to stay up late. So I need to work on that more. But I've been getting more sleep lately.
So about how many times a week do you have trouble falling asleep?
Maybe only once.
Okay. So
or maybe only like 2 to 3 times a month, I'd say.
Oh, okay.
I'm really lucky with that.
Sure. And how is your appetite?
My appetite's great. That's part of the problem.
I see. I see.
Because I like to eat now, and yeah, but I like to eat.
And how is your energy level?
I feel I always have had high energy, and I
Energy.
still do. Yeah.
So, even maybe when you don't get as much sleep as you want, you still have kind of that high energy?
I may be tired during the day, but then at night my energy seems to come back, and that's
Okay.
part of the problem. Why then I don't want to go to sleep at night because I get that burst of energy at night. But yeah, if I don't get enough sleep, it does affect me. I'm not productive during the day. I'm not a person that can go without sleep and be efficient. I always need sleep. 7 to 9 hours, I guess.
7. Okay. So have you noticed kind of any problems with activities of daily living? So that can be things like handling money, sort of maybe managing your time, just sort of just kind of practical problems around the house.
No, the only thing is now that I'm retired, sometimes I find myself procrastinating,
Procrastinating.
and I don't like that because um, you're just not efficient then. I'm a person that always likes to be efficient, use my time wisely.
Sure.
So there for a while this winter I was doing that a lot, and now I'm kind of snapping myself out of it. So.
Do you have any motor problems? Do you notice that you have problems just if you're reaching for something, it's kind of hard to grab onto something. It's hard to button buttons, anything like that.
No.
No. Okay. And then, do you ever have any kind of thoughts of suicide or thoughts of maybe hurting somebody else? Thoughts of aggression or anything like that? No. Okay. So I think you've done a good job. You've been very patient, kind of getting a lot of background information. So I kind of want to circle back to why you came in today. So you said you haven't been feeling good about yourself. You wanted to sort of avoid more drugs, especially since you've noticed that the low dose of Effexor has really helped. You mentioned that getting older is hard. Being retired, you just have a lot of free time. You mentioned that you're uncomfortable with maybe the weight gain you've acquired recently. You can't maybe fit into your summer clothes. You miss your daughter who's away at college. Um, what am I missing? Is there anything else? Because that's a brief overview, but I'm wondering if we can kind of get a little bit deeper into
No, that's about it.
That's about it?
I just wanted to. We joined a health club,
that. Okay.
and my husband and I did. And
Okay.
when we first joined, I couldn't go to it or do much there because I had foot surgery, and I was very limited in my mobility.
Okay.
But now I join classes there.
And your foot isn't necessarily bothering you currently?
Right. A little bit, but once I get moving, it's okay. But
Okay.
it doesn't prevent me from doing anything.
I see. Good.
So I try and work out at the health club, and that's been making me feel better about myself.
Sure.
But I'm still not losing weight, so now I just joined this application online called MyFitnessPal, and you're able to monitor everything you eat. You enter into the computer, and it calculates your carbohydrates, your protein, your sugars, fats, all of that. So I feel it's making me more accountable. So I'm hoping that'll help me lose the weight because with all the exercising I've been doing, I've been walking a lot at the track at the health club. And I haven't lost any weight, so that was really discouraging me.
Sure.
So I just needed to, even though I thought I wasn't eating a lot, I probably was eating the wrong things or whatever because otherwise you'd be losing weight.
Yeah.
So now I just started that last week, and I think that'll do the trick between the two of them. So I kind of feel better. I feel more hopeful now, which makes you in turn feel better. So
Sure. So you
the combination.
Yeah. So you said the MyFitnessPal you started last week.
On Monday.
Okay. And then how long have you been exercising with the health club?
Well, off and on for a while, but ever since February, mid-February, I've been real, um, yeah, I think it was February, I've just been real devoted to it,
Okay.
where I've been going
How
at
many
least three
times a week?
times a week, I
At
think,
least
minimum, 3 to 4
Okay.
times a week, yeah. And then I'll do a class. Sometimes I'll do 2 classes, like an aerobics and then a yoga and then a walk.
Okay.
So in each thing is maybe an hour, 45 minutes.
So you're kind of mixing it up a little bit
Mm-hmm.
to exercise
Little
different
strength
parts.
and right.
Okay.
I've been trying yoga. I don't feel successful in it just because it's so weird
It's
to me, some
difficult.
of these positions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I know in a few things I'm already getting better, and I feel that'll be some good strength. And then I joined a separate class that I had. Well, these are included, and then I joined one that I had to pay for, whatever. That was like a 6-week class that was really intense aerobics and strength training. I did that.
Okay. So really getting motivated.
Yeah, I feel like I really need to make the push now. Every May, I'm always mad I didn't start in February or March.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So now I'm making sure I am. So.
Okay. So is it sounds like kind of the main reason you're being devoted to your exercise regime and also writing everything down in this MyFitnessPal is to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And feel better about the way I look. Every time I go out, I just don't feel good about the way I look. I don't physically feel good and emotionally. I don't like the way I look in my clothes, and so that just affects, your emotions.
Oh, sure.
And I want to be able to wear my summer clothes too.
Okay.
I'm not buying more clothes and going up in size. Not doing that.
So determined to get back to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like the main reason you're exercising and watching what you eat is to lose weight so that you can increase your self-esteem.
And I forgot to mention just one thing. When I had my blood test taken, my annual blood test in December, my cholesterol was high.
Okay.
So I need to get that down because, again, I don't want to go on medication for that. So
you want to do things the healthy way.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I need to have it repeated next month. So I'm hoping it'll go down. So I'm looking around for that too.
Yeah. Let's see. So you mentioned that getting older is hard. What exactly did you mean?
Oh, the way you look, the way your body changes, your face changes. Girls worry about their face a lot, and
I can relate.
so I don't like that. And also, it just seems like you don't have as much to do in your life. When you're younger, you have school, career, this and that, and then all of a sudden you're done raising your children, and it's hard to know what the next step is. So I just want, and I like to be young all the time and think young. So I just need to find it. It's hard. It's just a new stage in life, like every new stage, So you have to figure out your new stage. But
that's a good way to put it.
And you have aches and pains and different things like that. And I just want to make the most of these years now. That I have all this time. I'm able to do that.
Yeah. And then you mentioned that you miss your daughter being away at college. Can you tell me how old she is now?
She'll be 23
Okay.
Next week. And as much as I miss her, I'm so happy for her that that's my happiness, is seeing how she excels and what she's become. I'm very proud of her. And she's great with always keeping in contact with me, texts me throughout the day, and we Skype. So she's just great with that. Shares things with me, and so still very involved in her life, which I'm very thankful for.
Good. So it sounds like even though she's maybe not always at home, you still have a really close relationship?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So anything else? Anything that I'm missing that maybe you want to address in our sessions?
One thing that bothers me is the weather. This winter was a killer
Yeah,
for everybody,
it really
but
was.
to me it just prohibits you from doing things too. That
Mm.
kind of bothers me. We got away for a week this summer, or this winter. We went to Punta Cana,
Okay.
which is a paradise. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's not reality. But sometimes I think that we may want to think about getting away for the winter
Okay.
a little bit, because that you just can't do anything, and that kind of not depresses you, but
Well, you mentioned that you've been kind of procrastinating this winter a little
hmm
bit. It's hard to get the
right,
motivation to go
right.
out and actually do the stuff that you want to work on.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just kind of been getting my pajamas and go
Mm.
at 6 o'clock at night, and
Yeah.
doing things around the house. Because you don't want to go
Yeah.
anywhere or do anything,
Yeah.
and so that makes you feel like you're just. At least me, I feel like I'm wasting time.
I see.
To be doing more with life.
Okay. Well, I think we've gotten about everything that we need to. Thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me
Well,
today.
thank you. I appreciate you. You seem very thorough with your questions. I appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you.